Welcome to Ceasefire, where civics meets civility and engagement meets empowerment. Ceasefire is hosted by former Bernie ISD trustee and owner of the Bernie Bookshop, Dale Adams, and by former Bernie City Council member and local insurance agent, Ron Cisneros. Ready, aim, ceasefire.
Good morning, Kendall County. This is Ceasefire. My name is Dale Adams.
And I'm Ron Cisneros.
And today we've got an interview. This is part of our county judge interview series. And today we've got Ricky Gleason, who's running for county judge.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Joining us.
Good to see you.
Welcome, Ricky. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well today.
All right. Well, let's jump right in. I'm going to start off with a question here. Of course, this is going to be a traffic question. So what steps, traffic, water, growth, what else could it be? Yeah. So what steps will you take to address the traffic congestion at the Herff Road and State Highway 46 intersection?
Well, I think first things, guys, here is it all comes down to we've got to have better planning and coordination between the different entities involved in this conversation, right? And that takes strong leadership, getting out there, building those relationships, and making sure that we've actually got a real plan. Mm-hmm. Instead of allowing other groups to do that planning for us, which we've seen not work very well in the past, we need to be out there getting the planning done and making sure that we're taking control over the future of our mobility here. And I think there are some easy solutions. We've got some good ones that are running through the AMPO group right now. And I think those are going to be there, but I don't think those are going to be the end-all solution to everything. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and that's just one of the pain points.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. There have been several accidents with fatalities on Westbound 46, the other side of the interstate, going towards Pipe Creek. What steps will you take to improve the safety of drivers on that stretch of the road?
You know, there's actually, this is pretty near and dear to me. I live over on that side of the highway, and it has gotten bad. And this, again, you know, broken record here, comes down to planning and coordination again. But the bottom line is that it is a problem. And, you know, kudos to Bandera County for coming out and making a declaration against the unsafe conditions on that road. And I believe we need to be doing the same thing and get the attention of TxDOT in the state to let them know that this road needs to be fixed. I mean, I've seen it. I drive it. It's not good. I've seen some of the fatalities and come up on them. It's a scary situation. And I think, again, the planning piece of we didn't plan the growth out, and we've got a road that was not meant for that much traffic to be going down it on a daily basis. And here we are stuck in that same situation, exactly like the situation we have at the other intersection.
Let's pivot over for a moment to water, the other one of the big three, I think. That's on everybody's mind. And what policy proposals would you propose to address future water needs?
Yeah, so like y'all said, water is the issue. It's the future of this county, right? The future of everybody. I mean, if we got water, if we don't have water, then we got nothing else, right? There's nothing else to do. None of the other planning matters. And so it really does come down to, you know, our 90th legislation session is going to have a lot of water conversation going on. And so to me, that's where we can make the biggest difference. Yes, we're a PGMA, but I don't feel like that gives us a lot of authority over what happens to our groundwater currently. And we need to be able to do that. We need to do some further studies, basically, as well, based on some engineers and smart folks I've talked to that are good in the water world, and know what we really have there and what's really going on. What's that next level down, the Ellenberger, right? What is it doing? Are we able to tap into that resource? That's one solution. The state legislature has also done a great job. I think they need more, but they're allocating $1 billion a year towards water infrastructure to help us fix things. So where that's a small percentage, it makes a difference to be able to go out there and fix leaky infrastructure. And from there, it's really bringing the right experts in the room and making sure we get our community involved and get real world solutions out there. But then we got to execute.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, a sub question to that. And Dale and I on the show have talked before about something Dale has called glory issues. I think it's a great title. And what he means by that are issues that people kind of put at the forefront of big political platforms, abortion, for example. And they're issues that highly contested emotional issues that we look at and we think people don't really want to resolve them. And I think sometimes that water might be one of those issues, that it's an issue that some people don't really want resolution on, because if we didn't have a water problem, then you lose the argument for being opposed to growth and development. Do you see that with water? Or
I do. It can be a bit of a catch-22, right? I mean, we want to solve water for the people that are here now is really my main concern. We've got to make sure we got enough for everybody here for the future. But if you do solve it in a big way, and I don't know what that big way would be, but let's just say we had more water than we'd ever know what to do with, well, then you come up with a development issue too, because now a county doesn't have the ability to control a utility like water, like a municipality does. And so when there's water, it makes it a little easier for that development to happen. So there is a little bit of a catch-22 there. But like I said, with that 90th legislation and the PGMA stuff, I believe that if we can get the right leaders in place, that would be something I would do right away, because it's going to start right when I would take office there in January of 27. And we've got to get up there and let our state legislators know that water is an issue. And we've got to work with our counties around us, guys. I mean, one county screaming into the void, it doesn't echo so well. But you get 3, 4, 5, 6 counties around here that know that water is a problem. They're going to listen. And we've got to get that grassroots. I'm all about our grassroots citizens getting out there. Look what they did with Lennar. I mean, that was, the Comfort Neighbors got out there and they worked hard. And, Chad Carpenter got behind them and went and helped to push this along in Austin. And I think that helped out a lot with everything going on. Just like with 391, whether it took care of the best thing all the way or it was the fire code is up for debate. But what it did do a good job of is creating our regional partnerships and bringing us together, which are insanely important, especially as we move into these areas like water and public safety.
Right. Okay. In a sort of a different directions, more about relationships actually, because many people say that the county and the city of Bernie need more collaboration, but they don't all agree on what they should collaborate on in different ways, and sometimes they don't like it. For example, some folks would prefer that the county not collaborate with the city on new roadways. But what does collaboration mean to you, and how would you pursue it?
Yeah, I mean, collaboration, I think I've learned that throughout my life. It's the most important thing. I mean, God put us all here with different talents and abilities, and it's our job to draw those out of people and collaborate with them and bring people together to solve the solutions. We have common citizenry, right? Like, just because you cross into Bernie doesn't mean you're not paying Kendall County taxes and aren't represented by your county officials. You're a part of the county as well. And so we need to do a better job at serving the entire community, rather than just saying, we're only serving the people outside of the cities, because that's just not true. I mean, everybody's a part of this community, and we need to start treating it that way. It's one community, and the community should come first. So that means our elected officials and people in those, with our EDC, all of that need to be coming together and coming up with solutions. We have a lot of heads in the room. It's always better. 2 heads is better than 1, right? So if we can get 10, 15 really smart people in the room, we're not always going to agree on what the right thing is. Yeah. But we're building relationships and building influence and helping each other to do the best for the people of this community.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that. I think that we truly are at our best when we recognize our interdependency on one another.
Yeah.
I don't know why, even when I was on city council, there always seems to be this divide between the city and the county, and in every election that comes up, there's always this talk of collaboration, and there's always this candidate that says, I'm going to be the guy that finally, or gal, that bridges that gap between the county and the city. And for whatever reason, it never really seems to get bridged. What do you think that you could do or bring to that table to help finally construct that bridge over to the other side?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ron. It's what I do. I mean, I don't really have a better answer than that. Like, what I do is I see people for who they are and where they're at, and try to understand what they're trying to accomplish, and then bring those common goals together, right? And they're not always going to be perfect, but we've got to start somewhere, right? So I think it really comes down to finding common ground, and that's pretty simple. I think everybody that are in these roles, or at least I hope they are here because they want to serve this community to the best and make it into the best community possible for their citizens. And I think we've got that common ground. We can work from there. I'm friends with a lot of folks that are on current city council. I know a lot of our city employees on my time in planning and zoning and different committees like that. And so I do feel like we can have a unique opportunity to bring people to the table and bring them together, rather than pointing fingers and blaming each other for things. It's more, how do we come together to make sure that we're doing what's best for everybody around? So just stop pointing fingers. I think that'll go a long way.
That would
Go a long way.
Yeah, and certainly there are some challenges there too. Whenever we would go out for a survey or try and get information, usually the city's very good about going beyond city limits, and they use the term stakeholders, which I'm not a big fan of because it's sort of a vague description of the people that are involved. Mm-hmm. But county people need to go to HEB. They need to go to Home Depot. That's in the city, all right? And so it always troubles me. I've heard on the county side people say, well, the candidates that run for county commissioner shouldn't be City of Bernie people.
Yeah,
it's
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that, and it always bothered me because they're Kendall County citizens. Yeah. But then where do we draw the line if you're in the City of Bernie? Who gets to say, because I remember county people wanting a voice on who should be mayor. People that were upset that they couldn't vote for Frank Ritchie, right? Yeah. And so, how do you, I'm not sure how to ask this question here, but how do you bridge those differences, what makes a city stakeholder and what makes a county resident here? Like, do city people get a voice? If you're the county judge, they get a voice in county governance.
I mean, they do, and they should now. Citizens should definitely have a voice. They're paying taxes. Mm-hmm. That makes them a stakeholder, right. Which I know is your favorite word for folks. But I view it like this, Ron, and I've said it in a few things. Like, if you're looking at county government structure, you got like county judge, CEO, member of the board, which is your commissioner's court, and then you have your shareholders, right? That's everybody who pays into the company, which is everyone paying taxes, which includes people in Bernie, Fair Oaks, Comfort, Alma Springs, Candelia, every town inside of Kendall County. Now, Bernie and Fair Oaks are the unincorporated cities, but everybody has a very unique difference in those different sections. We have very unique, we're all together, but different struggles in different areas, right, of the county. Down here in the south side, we've got the sprawling city of Bernie that keeps growing, and then, you get further into the county and it's wide open, right? Yeah. And so it makes for a whole lot of different conversations with different people, but in the end, what I think people really just want is a government that's there to serve them, and a government that is consistent in the process as it puts before its people and gives them that grace.
Yeah. So, Ricky, when does early voting start, and when is voting day?
May 18th through May 22nd is early voting, and election day is May 26th.
So mark your calendars and get out and vote. With that, we're going to take a quick break. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We're talking to Ricky Gleason, and when we come back, we'll talk about property taxes. We'll be right back. Bernie has its own bookshop. In fact, it's called the Bernie Bookshop. Hi, I'm Dale Adams, inviting you to get lost. Get lost in a good book in our relaxed and casual atmosphere. We have a wide and eclectic selection in the Bernie Bookshop, and we pride ourselves on finding what you are looking for. We do author meet and greets, host writing workshops, and can connect you with a good book club. And your young ones will absolutely love our kids section at the Bernie Bookshop. And while we want you to get lost, we're easy to find, as we're in the heart of Bernie at the back of the Richter Tavern building. We are the Bernie Bookshop. Welcome back to Ceasefire with Dale and Ron. We're talking to Ricky Gleason, who's running for county judge, and we touched on a little bit on property taxes and how everybody pays property taxes, but everybody wants to get rid of property taxes, and so that's always a popular topic for discussion. So what would you say is the right policy prescription for lowering property taxes?
Oh, yeah, this is a good question. I mean, the truth is there's no magic switch. Taxes don't change overnight. There's a lot of different things that we kind of have a social contract on, that we need these taxes to help keep up our roads and infrastructure and things like that. But with that said, I think we can affect that mostly with more efficiencies within the county government, modernizing where we're at, bringing things into the modern world that builds efficiencies, and also just making sure that we're spending money on actual needs and not on wants. There's a lot of wants, but there are true needs out there that need to be covered. So I don't think there's a magic bullet other than what I said. And then on top of that, obviously it's fiscal discipline and transparency within what we're doing, which I think we have great transparency at the moment. but I feel like maybe some of that fiscal discipline needs to be reviewed a little bit.
Ricky, one of the things that's driving our residential property taxes is our appraisal values, and our appraisal values, one of the reasons they're so high is that there's a limited supply, and this is a nationwide problem, right? A limited supply of housing, not enough for the demand that's out there. It's just basic economics. Our county and our city have pivoted to a position of trying to keep growth at bay, keep it from being growing as quickly as it has been historically. And that, again, going back to basic economics, that's going to continue to drive up the home prices. That's going to make workforce housing and apartments, everything, it's going to trickle down and make everything more expensive. At what point should we relent and say, okay, we've got to address that? You know, I'm going to be the bad guy here. I'm going to be the devil's advocate. We might need growth to bring those taxes down. What are your feelings on that?
Well, you're right. I mean, growth, first of all, growth should be paying for growth, right? And that again comes back to my broken record of planning. I mean, we've got to plan out a strategic future for our county, and that's got to be in tandem with our municipalities as well, and figuring out how do we do this together. So I've said this throughout the campaign, like, I'm not for growth, I'm not against growth, but I'm a realist. I mean, it's going to happen, whether we want to put our heads in the sand or fight against every single thing that's coming. It's still going to find a way to get here. Our proximity to San Antonio and to New Braunfels and Bulverde, everything's pushing towards Kendall County. And so we've got to have good strategic plans in place, or it's going to take us over. And so for me, I believe that we've really got to focus in on getting that done. Now, to answer your question, because I kind of went around it a little bit, but you know, commercial growth in certain areas is really where you get most of your tax dollars from, right? Like rooftops, first of all, neighborhoods and rooftops, they're going to take more water, more burden on your infrastructure. They're going to obviously tear the land up a lot more doing that kind of thing, whereas these commercial properties are going to use less water, most of them. There are some that don't, right? But those properties are going to have a much higher square footage value. And so I'm not saying the entire county needs to be covered in commercial development, but we've definitely got to start planning on where do we see this going and how do we do it, especially since we see our state legislator leaning towards the fact that sales tax revenue is probably their goal to replace all forms of property tax revenue. And so if we don't have a good, strong economy, when that happens, we're going to end up in a really bad place. I believe, and don't quote me, I forget the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it's not even 50% of our revenue that is sales tax driven. And so that would be a huge hit to our ability to take care of our infrastructure and to pay our employees and to run the county government here if that ends up happening at the state level, which I think would be a good thing if they can figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And I don't think they'll do it overnight. It's not going to happen in the next session, but it's been trending.
It's not, but and this is where planning comes in, Dale, right? Like if you've got planning and something's changing, you now have the ability to respond to that instead of doing a reaction in the background. You got to say, hey, this is a possibility. What do we do if that happens? How do we handle it? And that's why planning is so important.
Yeah, you know, and talking about trends, over the last few legislatures, and I'm talking going back a ways when I was on council, we saw the state and the legislature taking city powers away. There were power of annexation, and so the cities have lost the ability to control what happens outside of their borders. And some like that, and there's good reasons to like that, but a lot of that development and growth is now happening outside of the bureaucracy of the cities, and it's happening in the counties, something that I don't think anybody had planned for, one of those unintended consequences. How, in that role as county judge, how do you manage that?
It's an interesting and tough question. We definitely need a little bit more ability to manage those kind of things as a county government because of the annexation and the ETJ, where you're allowed to basically just take yourself out of the ETJ without any sort of really, other than a letter, from what I understand, to move out of that. And so it does change the ability to control those densities outside of there. And water is one of those capabilities to do that. But, if you go to the state to get a permit, then suddenly we've lost that control. So I listened to Rep. Troxler talk about this, and I know and I'm going to forget the details of it, but they have been working on some legislation to give some more capabilities to counties to be able to govern over these large developments so that we can make sure that we're not just getting 5 houses per acre type developments, that we're actually getting good quality developments that are better aligned with our culture and what we view ourselves as moving forward.
Yeah.
I hope that answered the question. I kind of went around a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah. Does that sort of blur the roles between the county and the city? Because the city's one of their main roles is managing development.
Yeah.
And historically, counties have sort of backed off and said, "That's not our role. If you want to manage it, then you incorporate some city," and they do that. Mm-hmm. But do you think this will sort of blur those roles, and the counties will take on some of those roles that the cities historically have?
From what Rep. Troxler was talking about, it sounds like that's kind of the goal, is to give some more authority. I don't know that it'll be zoning authority or things of that nature, but definitely the ability to have quasi-zoning authority where you can limit some lot sizes in certain areas. And I think it'll all be tied to water. Honestly, I think that we're going to be better control over that capability to protect that resource. And that's really, I think, one of the more important things for the Hill Country in general. Yeah, it kind of is going to blur those lines. And we kind of have that blurred line with Camp Bullis ETJ. That's a federal ETJ. And, there's still a lot of back and forth with the city and the county on that, I believe, on who really has the authority in that. Yeah. And so that's definitely something we got to figure out, because it's not fair to the citizens in there to not know what process am I supposed to go through.
Yeah, they don't know what's going on sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but growth. If I get on Facebook and I go into certain little angry groups, little beehives, the people have kind of painted a picture of Ricky Gleason as this giant land developer or something, right? So what are you? Are you pro-growth, anti-growth? I mean, somewhere in the middle, and who should have a voice in how Kendall County looks in the future?
Well, I mean, everybody should have a voice in that. And like I said earlier, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. I'm just real about it. I mean, I've watched this place grow. Mm-hmm. I grew up here. I mean, I remember, I believe it was like the late 80s that, we had it looked like Bernie might fail. Mm-hmm. And so there is a bad side to no growth, and there's a bad side to too much growth. And so we just need to be real about it and be planning for it. Developer wise, the thing they're going on is that one of my dear friends has got a property out on Bergheim that is 22 acres, and he is going to develop that next to the gas station there. And he said, "Hey man, I really would love for you to be a partner in something with me." And I was like, "Man, I don't have that kind of money to invest in these projects. I don't have your minimum." And he was like, "I don't care. What do you got?" And I said, we can spare $5,000 to put in there just to support my friend and do that. And he was like, "Great, do it." And so that's the extent of my development background. So not even a developer, an investor in something that I thought was good for that area, to be honest with you, with Tractor Supply and a Whataburger and all that. I think in that area, we're going to see more of that, and more people wanting to do that. It's an intersection of 2 major highways.
Yeah.
And who could say no to Whataburger in Bergheim?
I mean, Whataburger is always good.
Yeah.
Okay, I saved the toughest question for last, and I hope you're ready for this, because this could make or break your election.
Let's do it.
This one is coming from Chef Mark Sierra over at Compadres, and he wants to know, and his faithful patrons want to know, Fideo or Menudo?
I'm a Fideo guy for sure.
All right.
I do like what Mark does over there with his Fideo. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we'll see if see how many votes that gets you.
Okay, well, one thing we do on this show is we always have a book, and I thought since this is about county judges, we've got a book called Judge Roy Bean, Law West of the Pecos. Now, that's not necessarily local, but this might be aspirational for some of our county judges to read his biography and learn a little bit about him. And we've got it at the Bernie Bookshop.
Love it.
Any final words?
Oh, no, just thank you guys for having us on, or having me on, to talk about all these issues. It's important for everybody to be able to hear them. There are quite a few different events coming up where you can hear some debates. I encourage you to be watching out for them. I don't have the dates with me right here. I'm trying to remember what they are. I know one of them is the roundtable. I believe that's on the 13th.
The 13th.
13th of May at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. It will be also my 31st wedding anniversary, but I'm going to be hanging out with politicians instead.
Good for you.
I'm sure your boss lady is very happy.
Oh, yeah, she's excited.
Yeah, what a way to spend your anniversary.
She asked for that. She said that my ultimate date night would be hanging out with a bunch of political candidates, and I said I can make that happen.
Yeah, we can do that. I have a way.
Thank you for joining us and doing this. We appreciate it, and thank you for throwing your hat in the ring and going for the position. And that's going to wrap it up for us. This is Ceasefire with Dale and Ron, and we will see you next week. If you missed any of it, you can always go to bernieradio.com, check out the podcast and their other podcasts also. See you next week.